former international student. I did my MBA here. I had zero network when I came, right? So how do you find a job if you have no network? You have to start building that network. So this is an opportunity to build a network that might be in your field of study or might not be, but these people are well connected as well, right? So it's starting to get that connection with real business, real industry.
Sorry, Jamie,
It's all good.
I just need to get Finn on his co-host, and then we can go from there.
All good, all good. So, and again, as we mentioned, the focus of this is really about that entrepreneurial mindset. So working with businesses who are trying to change, shift things up and all of that, and really building that skill set of thinking big, thinking broad, but in a structured sort of way. So building that entrepreneurial mindset and delivering a real business outcome. So you will be pitching to the company after, you will be giving them an actual report. And our feedback from clients, like 80 to 90% of them say that they've actually improved their decision-making because of the work that they've received from the students. So you actually are giving them something that they can take forward and do something with, which is an amazing opportunity. The clicker
It's happening again.
Here we go. So entrepreneurship, and I should, you know, we all, I'm sure you guys all know what entrepreneurship is. This is the focus of what we call entrepreneurship though. So entrepreneurship is social entrepreneurship. So looking at companies that are trying to change, you know, and have an enhanced sustainable impact, social impact in the world. So really organizations that are focused there. Entrepreneurship, so this is your startup space. We all love startups, they're great. Then there's entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurships are people who are trying to shift a business, a big business from the inside. I've done that as well. They're two totally different worlds. You apply the same principles and the same logic, but how you have to go about it is totally different. If you're in a business that's been operating for 65 years, like the one I was in, and you're trying to shift the thinking, whew, that's a big storytelling job. That's a big, you know, how do you get everybody on the same page? How do you, you know, that's a different game than working in a startup where you have, you know, there's no legacy for how things are done around here. There's no, you know, but you have different funding pressures and other things. So getting the difference between the two, same principles, but how you apply those principles is different. So these are the three types of businesses that you'll have an opportunity to engage with. This program hopefully already sounds like it is a little bit different than your traditional academic exercise because it's real world. And the way we design it is that you actually feel not only working for a company, but what it feels like to be in that company. And what it feels like on a day-to-day basis for them. So it gives you that real world experience of what is it like to be in a startup? Is that something I actually want to do? Or maybe not. Maybe it's not as sexy as I thought. It is sexy. You know, I'm not trying to deter you from startups. It's team-based. And a lot of what we do is team-based, but the way that we design the teams is similar to how you would design a team in the real world. How do you find people that have differing opinions, different backgrounds, different skill sets, diversity of all types to actually help solve that problem? And that's where we know innovation comes from, diversity and diversity of teaming. So being able to work with a team on a team that is delivering real impact and real outcomes, that's different than, you know, creating a report with 800 words and whatever, right? Like it's a different type of teaming and a different type of support that you need to provide each other as a team. It isn't an assessment. So it's not an assignment in the sense that we're looking for, the 1,500 words and the, you know, the bibliography and the back end citations. It's not an assignment in that sort of way. The clients aren't going to want a long report. They have no time to look at that. So it's a different way of storytelling your findings and what you think they should do. So it's more of a client deliverable than an assessment and an assignment. So the way you structure it and think about it is different. It's self-directed. And I was talking with some students the other day about feedback that they had from when they did it. They're like, you told us it was self-directed, but we didn't really realize what that meant. There's no, you do step A, step B, step C, and then you get an answer D. That's not how it's going to work. You're going to get a problem that the client has given you, and you as a team need to figure out how you're going to solve it. You'll have resources and support to get you there, but you actually have to figure out, when are we going to meet? How are we going to do this? How are we going to break down this work? Like, what are the different buckets of work and who's going to do what and what time do we need to do it in? It's fully self-directed. There's a support function for you, but the aim is to get you actually in there and just learning on the ground how to operate. It is extracurricular. We recognize that you're here out of your, you know, it's not something that's attached to a subject, but it also gives you that opportunity then to work in and around what you're doing, which is a lot of times what happens in the real world as well. You'll have a full-time job, but you might have other passion spaces that you need to figure out how's it all going to fit in my world. And the last little bucket that you can't see is that it actually delivers real value. Again, you're actually delivering something to a client that they can take forward and use. So does that sound exciting? I think so too, or I wouldn't be standing here. What's the intent in the learning outcomes? We already said kind of what the objectives of the program are, but this is what the type of skill sets that we focus on. And these are the skill sets when you talk to recruiters, when you talk to companies, this is actually what they're looking for. Technical competency is fantastic, but having an engineer that can actually communicate with a design team or communicate with a customer success team, that's really what they're looking at. That ability to collaborate, the ability to communicate, the ability to problem solve, the ability to kind of think beyond, have that systems thinking. Negotiation skills, engaging with clients as a former consultant, you do have to negotiate with them. They will want the world from you. You don't have the world to give them. So you'll have to be able to negotiate with them. What can you deliver in what time period? And you'll have to learn to push back. So that negotiation skill is a great one to learn. Judgment, service orientation, so being customer focused. These are all the world 21st century skills. These are the ones that are really going to, help you get a job, right? And they're the skills that actually make us human. These are the things that robots can't replicate. So these are the skills that people are actually looking for. I'd love to be able to say that you'll be an expert at all of these by the end of the 3 weeks. I'd so be lying, because these are lifelong skills. These are skills that I look at them and I'm not perfect at all of them or any of them, right? You constantly learn and evolve as a person, how you're going to apply them, and how you apply them in different situations looks and feels different as well. So the aim is to really look at the skills, have that introspection to know, well, where am I already good? What do I want to get better at? And focusing on maybe one or two throughout the program and seeing how you advance those throughout the program. But I'll stop talking now. What do we think of these different skill sets, capabilities? Do they resonate? Do they all make sense?
I'm going to jump in.
Jump in.
I think number 6 is really, really important because that emotional intelligence, it's how you read somebody else and the impact that you're having on them in your delivery. So understanding the different personality types you'll be working with and how to address certain situations or communications is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And that what you mentioned, it's not only understanding yourself, but understanding your impact on others. And through programs and through work and through stressful times, you're going to behave in weird ways. So how do you know how that's going to impact others? And how do you know what their trigger points are so you can support each other through that? Absolutely. How about any of the other skills?
I just have a question.
Yeah.
So with number 5, coordinating with others.
Mm-hmm.
Question like, do we choose like who we work with, or is that just assigned?
Yep. No. And we do get that question a lot. Oh, can I work with my friends? Because again, we try to simulate the real world as much as possible. And in the real world, particularly in consulting, this is kind of a bit of a basis of, you get a client and then you try to figure out who's the best team to solve the problem of that client. So are they available? Are they the right type of person, the right thinking, the right skill set, the right capability? And you pair the people together. So you'll have a program manager, you'll have a designer, you'll have an engineer. You'll need to bring them all together to solve the problem. It's not going to be one firm or another. So we do that work of looking at all of the individuals and saying, okay, here's the actual client. What is the problem they're trying to solve? And then who are the right people, the right students to build a team to then solve it for them. So yeah, we do that work for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then do we work in like small groups or like larger groups? Like what's the number like?
So teams, and I will get into that. Teams are usually around 4 to 6 because that's a really good size, because then you'll end up with 5, right? And odd numbers are kind of the best teams because you have an odd voice out. So yeah, small teams of 4 to 6. Yeah. Yes.
So you're also assigning the roles.
We don't assign the roles.
So we negotiate by ourselves.
Yes. Yeah. So who's going to be the team leader? Who's going to be this? And that's that kind of that emotional intelligence, that understanding each other, that coordinating is understanding, well, where do each one of you play best? Where are your strengths? Then how do you build a great team, knowing that each one of your strengths look like? Yeah. Cool. So this is some of the feedback that we repeatedly see from this program. It's everything from the beginning of how do you actually approach a problem. Again, you're going to get a piece of paper that has a client name and a client brief on it, and then go, right? So how do you even start approaching that problem and that task? How do you start coordinating as a team of what roles are going to be what? And how do you actually apply critical thinking? Because again, there's not a signpost of this is exactly how it's done. So we get that feedback quite often. Being able to communicate, and communicating is different when you communicate with, with industry than with your peers versus whatever, right? So it's a different communication style. There's a different level of formality. There's a different level of pleasantries that you have to wrap around things. So, how do you actually communicate professionally and communicate what you've learned in a clear, concise way? Because again, they're time poor. So, the communication skills are a bit different. Being able to work, and that talks about being able to work with a diverse set of students. That's the one thing that we always see that students are like, oh, we had to work in a team. But then what they love the most is working in a diverse team, from learning from each other. And then making a network. So having that professional network and being able to actually, put it on your CV that you've worked with X company, and have them as a reference or have them as a LinkedIn post and that sort of thing. So lots of great feedback. Let's get into the nitty gritty, because we've already been asking questions about the nitty gritty. There's different roles. So there's the student role, there's your client, and then we provide you with an industry mentor. So let's break all of those down. Let's talk about you first. So the student, it is paired in teams of 4 to 6. It is about a 50-hour commitment across the 3 weeks. So when and how you use those 50 hours, totes up to you. That's not us. But we do see in programs, it usually is about 50 hours individually for the program. There's 3 main deliverables. So the first deliverable of any engagement is really the charter. What are we going to be working on? So an agreement of scope, an agreement of time frame, an agreement of output that you'll have with the client. So that's kind of your binding agreement that you have anytime you have a client. So that's the first one. The second one is a draft report. So the draft report shows them directionally what you found so far and what they should be seeing in the final report. And then there's the final report and pitch. So those are the 3 main deliverables that you'll have in the engagement, working as a team and being self-directed. So the clients are all Australian based, and their main role is to provide you the brief and to provide you with some mentoring support and answering any questions. So we work and try to find these right clients that are going to solve, that are really keen to participate. It is voluntary for them, so they don't get paid or anything. They're doing it because they know they're going to get great value, and also they love giving back to students. So they're not scary. I promise they do it because they love it. So do engage with them. They commit to, in this case, it is a virtual meeting, but now it's going to be face-to-face. Yay! So orientation is actually going to be face-to-face. So you'll get to meet them in person, and they have committed to that first meeting with you. So to actually walk through and design the scope and to give you feedback. And so this isn't just tick box feedback, but actually in-depth feedback. We give them guidance on how to provide proper feedback so you can actually learn from it. Because again, all experiential learning, you get feedback, you learn from it, you kind of grow. So that's the main client role. Then there's the mentor role. So the industry mentor, the reason for that role is to really give you a sounding board and a safe space to test things and to challenge things and to, they're the one that you kind of think of them almost like a little buddy who's there to guide you along the way. So we pick those as well. They're all going to be Queensland based, Brisbane based, so that they're local and you can catch up with them in person. I've been a mentor many, many times. Mentors love it. They love engaging and being able to give back. So these are the people that you can have on, whatever channel that you usually chat with, and you can ask them questions like, "Ooh, how should I ask this?" Or "Can you review my draft report so I can have some feedback?" So that's really their role, is as your support and guide through the program. Does that sound fun? Yes.
Yeah. So for the meeting with clients,
Yeah.
is that only once? Like once in the first and then the final report, that's it?
So we organize the first meeting. So in orientation, there is a session where you'll actually meet with the client and meet with the mentor. That's the only structured one that we design. At that orientation, it's, hey, chat with the client and see what their expectation is. What would they like? Some clients like to meet virtually. I'm mentoring a team now and we meet every week. So it all depends on what the client's availability is, what they want. So that's kind of, again, that self-direction of you working together to say, okay, we agree that we're going to meet at 11 o'clock every Tuesday with the mentor and Thursday with the client. So that's all up to you and the client to
So
organize.
we will get like the connection with clients and free to connect them.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you just work out what your working rhythm is. So how you each work best, what channel works best to communicate and all of that. And then there is a final pitch at the end. And we recommend that the final pitch is actually on the client site. That way you can see their premise, where they work, what that looks like, and you can also meet some of the colleagues that are there as well. What happened to my clicker? Here we go. Cool. So how does it actually work? This is experiential learning. So it's learning on the job and learning by doing. You will get a platform. So there is the Practera platform that you will get that gives you a bit of content. So just enough content to understand, well, what is structured problem solving? How should I approach this? How do I do market research? What is a competitor analysis? Like some base knowledge is there, but the real purpose of the platform is to engage with your client. So that's how you will engage with the client, sending them the deliverables through that, and doing a bit of reflection. So you do self-reflection, you do team reflection. That's really what the app is there for, to support you through that. You go away, you get a task, you do the thing, you give a you get draft report, you get feedback on that thing, and then you learn from it and you give a final report, which is improved because you've received feedback. So that's that kind of little loop of how the program actually works. In detail, what it looks like. So there is an orientation. We've already started that from the student journey point of view. So this is where you meet your team. As you said, we pick the team. So you meet your team there, you meet your client there. And that's when you really, the main deliverable from that is we ask you to do a self-assessment. So a bit of a self-reflection of looking at the global skills. Where are you at? What are the skills you want to develop? What are you expecting out of the program? A bit of that self-reflection and starting that, because that's a great skill set to have. The first week is really that planning phase. So again, in any engagement that you have, whether it's in consulting or anything, the first thing you need to do is, what are we doing? What are we agreeing to? And so the first week is really about figuring out and honing in exactly what you're going to achieve. Second week, then you actually start executing. So you start diving in and doing the research. You start going and talking to people. You start actually doing the work to get a draft report. Again, the draft report final are different. The draft report shows directionally where it goes. So don't feel nervous that you don't have all of it sewn up and it doesn't look gorgeous. It's really just to show the client directionally where you're at. They give you then feedback, and then you have the third week to get that final report done and to pitch it to them. So pitching is a great, who's pitched? I'm sure there's heaps of people that have pitched. Megan, you don't count. Yeah? How did we find the pitching process? Yeah? It's all right. Nerve-wracking at all?
Yeah, it did. Like, you know, it's good to, I guess, have your background knowledge in the area that you're pitching before you say actually, I can pivot on the spot.
Yeah.
In pitch.
Yeah.
Also, good prep.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Knowing what you're talking about, very important. You're much more comfortable and confident when you know what you're talking about. Yeah. How about you? How'd you find pitching?
Yeah, quite good actually. I mean, I did public speaking competitions in high school, so I was like, hey, we're talking.
Yeah.
And then it was just having good prep and being comfortable
Yeah.
on stage. Yeah. I did. My pitch wasn't like conventional, like elevator pitch. I did QT starters. It's an entrepreneurship program at QT.
Yeah.
And it's a pitch at the end of your program.
Yeah.
So that's my pitch.
So how did you prepare to pitch? What was
Um,
your process? Give people something.
went over the project, so we were designing an electric skateboard, and so how our project went and what the problem we're trying to solve, and this is our product.
Yeah, yeah. So how did you find that, and to both of you, how did you find that experience different than when you would, you know, do a uni assignment?
No citing, obviously. Well, there's no citing. I've had some sort of research, but not as crazy as for normal for a uni assignment. There's a lot more freeform, you know. There's a lot of less structure to it. I have to sort of solve my own problems in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought pitching for me, it was, I guess, boiled down to like identifying the value that you're providing to your customer, and I guess articulating that in such a way that you know, makes sense to them.
Yeah.
That was like the main pitch, I guess, the hurdle that you had to get through, like really making clear that, because like a pitch is only like really short, 30 seconds, like you have to really get that point across and really identify what that value is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we get, you know, trained to do is to show all of the evidence of everything that we've ever done. And that's kind of at the forefront of, here's all of the work and here's all of our research. That doesn't matter. And it's great to have, and you need to have the evidence, but what are the insights that you've gained from that? And that's the value. So how do you do all of this work and then pull it all together into these are the 3 bullet points that the client actually needs to know? That's a different approach, and that's the approach that you'll be taking here, and we'll guide you through here. Would anybody be nervous about pitching? Any nerves or any? Yeah. Why?
I like to have thought about things a lot before I sort of communicate them. So I think if I was put on the spot, I would become really nervous.
Yeah. That's why you have a team to help support you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. It's self-directed, and your experience is your responsibility, right? And we say the same things to the clients. What you put in is what you're going to get out of it. If you putting yourself out there, like this is a no-go space for me. I'm too scared to do it. That's where the learning happens, though, when you step outside of that little comfort zone circle that you have. So putting yourself out there in that case of saying, you know what, I want to be part of the pitch team. Cool. That's putting you out there, and that's where you're going to learn. So that experience is your responsibility. How much you put in, how much effort and energy and thought process you put in, how you collaborate as a team, you'll get it out in spades. And we see that with the clients. The clients that engage most with the students are the clients that get the best results in the end because they've been invested in the process. And you do all of these cool things, and you spend the 50 hours and you work with the client, and then you get this beautiful digital badge and certificate that you could put on your LinkedIn profile. And why are these important? And we all know badges and things. This is backed by UQ, which says something in and of itself. It says the type of skill sets that you've built. And when you look at employers and what they're actually looking for, you're building the skills that they're looking for. So this is evidence, A, that you've worked with a real Queensland-based company and that you've started to develop these skills. So it's that great evidence point that you can put on your CV, your LinkedIn profile to say, hey, check it out. I'm above and beyond because I've participated in these programs. We always get questions of what are the types of companies we might work for? A spattering of them because that's what makes it diverse and fun. You might recognize some of these names, CUA, for example, BOQ, RICQ. You might not recognize some others, Grand Shake, Startup Apprentice. The one up there is like Bean something, right? Those are startups, so you might not have heard of them. But what the cool part is being able to actually work with them to help them grow as a business. You'll notice that there's a spattering of sector. We try to make it as diverse as possible because a lot of the questions we get is this just for business students? No, it isn't, because we need a diversity of mindset and thought and frame that comes to the program. So you'll see, we have hospitals in there, we've got aged care in there, we've got, IT and, every single agribusiness. We try to get every single sector so it gives you that breadth of experience as well in different sectors. Yeah. Any questions on clients? Because we always get lots of questions on who am I going to work for?
I guess my question that I had is I'm not too sure because it hasn't been released yet, but I might have the last week of the internship might overlap with my physiotherapy placement. And that was my concern because, because the physiotherapy placement is pretty much full-time work.
Yep.
And I'm still really interested in this.
Yep.
But, would I still be able to take part in this if that's the case?
People have lives, right? And everybody will. And so that's where we're really working with the team up front to set expectations of when are you available, when can you work, when can you do things. People have full-time jobs, other commitments and other things. So it's how do you work as a team and will that work for the team? You can still put in your 50 hours within the time period and just say, I'm going to front load that because I'm not available towards the end of the week, but I'm really available now. So I'm going to front load all my effort here. It happens all the time. People take leave or aren't available on certain days or certain times. So if you're able to put the commitment in of the 50 hours across those weeks, you just need to set the expectation with the team up front of what that looks like.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So a quick question on how you would define client type. So what's something that is a government bureau or agency, and perhaps something akin to say a public hospital or research center that is government aligned. Are they necessarily social enterprises or are they viewed as corporate entrepreneurships given the way they are bureaucratically oriented and designed?
That's a really good question.
Or are they even options to be placed in the first place?
Yeah, well, we have had we have had one of the Health and Human Services departments participate in the past, and they were really focused. So what types of challenges could you focus on? In this case, they were seeing that GP visits were dropping, and they needed to figure out, well, why are GP visits dropping? What's happening? What's going on? What's the drivers for this? And how can we? Is it a marketing thing? Is it that people just aren't coming to the GP? Like, what is it? And then how do we tackle that? And how do we promote, the great work that we do? So in that case, you could say that's entrepreneurship, because it's a big organization that is trying to change how they operate. But I wouldn't say that, you can be a social entrepreneur and a social entrepreneur, right? If there's a social purpose.
That is, I've looked at the application form. It does require to identify what you want to go for, and given that there is such an overlap anyway, it's hard.
Yeah. Is there an option to put multiples? I forget.
So you have a first preference and a second preference.
Yes.
But I don't see any field whereby you say I'm open to anything or.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good feedback. All right.
Yeah.
That's good
I'll take
feedback to
that.
just change that so there's an option of I'm keen for whatever.
Otherwise, if there is an opportunity to kind of like, have more information on what could possibly fit under each
Yeah.
experience,
Yeah.
that would be great.
Yeah. Awesome. That's great feedback. Thank you. Jackie's on it. Of course, Jackie's on it. So some of the types of challenges, I mentioned one, but some of the other types of challenges you might be looking at are things like, what's my competitor scan? So I can't remember, one of them was a fairly new business, SA1 Property, fairly new business into the market, and they were trying to figure out who else is doing what we're doing, because we have this tiny niche, but who else is there? Who are our competitors? What's the actual size of the market if we were to go into Sydney? So that's the type of challenge that business was trying to solve. Agenic is a data company, and they were trying to spin off a separate company. So they wanted to see, is this actually a viable company that we could spin off? What would the value proposition be of that company, et cetera. Some of them are marketing challenges. Some of them are, new market entry, new product development. Those are the types of problems that you'll be solving for these companies. Any other questions? Any questions on the phone?
So pretty much what we do is we take that problem and then we need to start researching, right? And then I know that there are some platforms available, where you can look at market sizes or trends and things like that. But I have no idea what those are. Who do we get information from?
Yeah, so we provide you some of that information on the platform. And we also tell the clients to provide you as much information as possible, right? Because odds are they've already done a bit of the work. So we say, provide the student team with the information you already have, because then you're going to get a better outcome, because you're already showing them, here's what we already know, find gaps. And a lot of times clients give you direction of looking, because they've been doing the work, but they probably don't have the capacity to do it. So the clients can give you some direction, and we provide you some direction in the platform as well. Yeah. So next steps, the application is open now. Is that correct? Yes.
Correct.
Application is open now. We will look to change that one question. And then the next step from there is the kickoff, the project orientation. So that's an in-person orientation here, which will be super duper fun, because it's weird doing it on Zoom. So yay, people. And that's where you get to a better understanding. That's when you take that student hat off, you put that consulting hat on, you get geared up, and you meet your client, you meet your mentor, and you get set as a team. Yes, let's go tackle this problem together. So it's a bit fun and a bit engaging to be together. Then again, week 1, that project plan. What are you doing? What are you delivering? By when? Week 2, that draft. Week 3, that final. And in the meantime, figuring out, well, where and when and how are you going to pitch, and what does that look like, and agreeing that with the client. So are you ready? Is this what you thought it was going to be? Or is you excited? You're like, not so much. Yeah?
I wasn't sure what to expect. So.
Cool. So here's some key dates. So you can take a happy snap of this. We'll also make the slides available. Register by the 21st of May. That might seem a bit early, given that the program starts on 30 June. But as we mentioned around teaming, it really gives us enough time to be able to understand you, where you're looking at going, building that team around the right client. So it gives us a bit of time to actually build the right teams. So that's why the registration is by then. That in-person orientation, I'm assuming it will be in this room, will be on the 30th of June. That goes for a couple hours, and then being available from the 5th of July through to the 23rd of July. So that final pitch that you'll have with a client should be in that final week. Sometimes they're not available and it might be the Monday after, but we don't like it to go much longer than that. We want you to really be able to contain it within the 3 weeks. But that's something you'll agree with your client. Yeah, committing the time and submitting your deliverables. So that's the whole thing. Yeah. Any questions?
How many people you're taking for this semester?
So I believe there's 100 places. Yeah.
So 100 divided by 5, so it will be like around 20 projects.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, that's just the orientation.
That's right.
Do you usually get more than 100 applicants?
We do. We've been quite successful with the program. But we do, the intent of it is to provide everybody the opportunity. So, it's not, there's no, you need to have X GPA, all of these kind of criteria, because everybody needs the experience of being able to work with a real business. So yeah, the selection criteria is quite minimal, really wanting to be open to everybody who's interested.
And just to add on to that, don't be afraid to put your name in the hat, because that's the game in the real world. If you don't try, you never have the opportunity. So don't be afraid of the 100 people that, don't be afraid of that. Just say, I want to do this, and, step into the arena and put your application in.
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, how does the client selection process, like, how do you like divvy up things into like different clients, and like, have you found, or have you got any specific clients in mind at the moment?
Yeah, excellent question. And I should have been prepared with that. We have a whole industry engagement team. So we have about 2,000 clients that we've worked with in the past. So we either try to tap back into them or we find new clients. We also try to find clients that aren't ventures clients, so it kind of broadens that out as well. So we try to look for again, a spattering of the different types of sectors, because we want to make sure that there's an equal opportunity for people from different study frames. And then that having the size of the company, so startup all the way through to big corporate and to government. So that's how we select clients. We do try to make sure that their intentions are, that they want to do this because they want to support students and all of that. So we're really clear with them and have a couple meetings with them on expectation setting and engagement and all of that. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't give proper names.
Yeah,
We're still in the process of finding all of the
Yeah,
clients.
it's easy. And so, like, how do you, I guess, select like, which team goes where? Like, is that based on like people's expressed interest in certain areas, or?
Yeah, so the starting point is expressed interest of, do you want to work in the social entrepreneurship, or what space you want to work in? And then we look at a variety of different diversity factors. So what you're studying, what year of study you're in, where you're from, because sometimes we have clients that are looking at exporting into a different country. So if you're from that country, we would like you to, partner there. What other things? Gender, nationality, all of those, just try to make it as diverse as humanly possible. And then we look at, again, the type of client and what problem they're trying to solve for. So if they're looking at a marketing and you're in a market, you're studying marketing, sweet, you would want to partner something there. Or if it's an IT company and you've got somebody that's studying IT, you would want somebody in the team that has that theoretical background to be able to support the rest of the team. So a number of factors like that, just to make sure that you gel nicely as a team, but also it's what the client's going to need. So that's that month period of us going through all the names and partnering it up. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
So I'd like to know about attendance.
Yep.
Do we need to meet like 2 hours per day or?
Yeah, good question. So the only thing that's mandatory about the program is the orientation. I should have said that. So the orientation is mandatory. Why we do that is it demonstrates commitment. And we know that students that attend the orientation are more likely to complete the program. And because it is engaging with an industry mentor and an industry client, we want the team to complete as a team, right? It's respectful to the client. So if you attend orientation, we know that you'll complete the program. So that's the only one that's mandatory. After that, it's working with the team and with your client and with your mentor on when, where, and how you're going to connect and meet. Yeah. You had a question?
Yeah. if we have more questions after today, how do we ask?
I think there's a slide with an email, isn't
Yes.
there? Should we keep going?
Second or third. Yeah, we'll just go back.
I'll go back.
Yeah, the left.
All the way to the beginning.
All the way.
All right. Let's go to the beginning. We'll get you that. Because yeah, there likely will be questions after now. So you can either message Jackie, or you can email myself. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. No question is silly. So yes.
I've got one question from the Zoom.
Oh, sweet.
It's all remote, so they're not in Brisbane, I assume. There's no barriers for them to participate in this program.
There's no barriers to participate in the program. We do know that if you are remote, you're still able to participate because we'll have a Zoom attendance for the orientation, and they can still attend, Zoom meetings and things like that with their client and with the mentor. So we want to make it, that's the world now, right? Is that we all work remotely. So yeah, you don't have to be based in Brisbane. Yeah.
Cool. Any other questions, or we're good? Good? Yeah. We've recorded this, and we'll send the slides as well, slide deck and the recordings. And I've got, for those of you who haven't tapped, if you could tap or write your student number down if you've forgotten, just so that we can get this out to you, all the information. And like Jamie said, if you've got any questions, reach out to any one of us, and yeah, we'll answer those questions. Yeah. Cool.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for your attention. Hope to see you soon in the program.
Yes, absolutely. It's exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it can be like face-to-face, or it can be like
Sounds pretty exciting.
It's fun.
Yeah,
It
it's
is.
daunting too.
Oh yeah.
I started a consulting program last year, and I ended up like dropping out halfway through because I felt like I was such a noob and couldn't contribute anything.
That's that reflection, right? Of what is it that you're bringing? In as a consultant, that's a lot of the feeling is why am I in this room? So what am I bringing to this? They're paying me, but what am I actually bringing? And that figuring out what that is a great confidence booster, to be honest. Because you're like, no, I'm not a technical expert. I don't know your sector at all, but you know what I bring? I bring a different type of thinking, or I know how to storytell, or whatever that skill set is that you bring that makes you unique. Yeah. Give it a crack.
I want to give it a crack.
Give it a crack.
Yeah.
You have it's a safe space. You have support around you with a mentor, with us, to really, and with your teammates, to really give it a go.
And it would be, I have a field trip, I think, starting on the 21st.
Yeah, like it's just some people like.
So we could possibly do it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
Awesome. Yay. You too. Thank you.
Yeah, no, you don't use it.
Yeah, as long as you're not already graduated. Yeah, you can.
No, yeah, this is actually my first semester. So I'm doing very good. Okay, thank you. So I just
Yep. You just need to register by the 21st of May. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No worries.